moment. So I'd like to start off by asking a question to the professors, and that is, how would you like for your students to come to you and inform you that they love these online quizzes and they like them so much that they ask for more? And not only do they ask for more, but they ask you to post all of the remaining quizzes so that they can work ahead.
Oh, Deanna, yeah. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I think you may want to share your screen.
Okay, I did. Did it not go through?
I may have taken my time passing the ball. Do you want to try again from the top navigation menu?
Now are we good?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So just that students would be so thrilled to be taking quizzes that they would ask you for more so that they could work ahead. So if I sound crazy, this is actually what happened to me after I started using LaunchPad. Students were really appreciating the quizzes, they noticed the benefits to them, and they were wanting more. And so that's why I'm excited today to share with you about LaunchPad and how that's benefited my students and myself in the classroom. So as Alex mentioned, my name is Deanna Roskop, and I teach speech communication at Tarrant County College in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And today I'd like to let you know which products I use, how I use LaunchPad in my course, most importantly, the benefits to my students, and then lastly, the benefits to myself as the instructor. So if you'd allow me to start off with the products that I use, I have used previous digital products. Not only had I used Macmillan's Comm class product, I had used other publishers' products as well. But I'm really excited about the new LaunchPad and the great improvements to the online component for our students. So what I use specifically right now this semester is I use LaunchPad for 2 different textbooks. Real Communication is my Intro to Speech Communication class, and I also use a speaker's guidebook for my public speaking class. The really great thing about LaunchPad is even though they're different textbooks with a little different content, LaunchPad still works the same. So it's very easy for me to go in and assign assignments to students and work on LaunchPad because they work exactly the same. Now that we've covered the products that I use, I'd like to talk about how LaunchPad appears in my classroom. And so the very first place students will see this is in my syllabus. I find it important enough for students to know that it is pertinent that they purchase the LaunchPad product to be successful in the class. And so it appears in about 4 places in my syllabus. The first place will appear under my required text and materials, so they'll be able to see exactly what they need to purchase there. The second place is under my course policies. I have an exams and quiz section that lets them know that they do have to take their exams and quizzes on LaunchPad. They will also find it in a grading evaluation section and syllabus to show the importance and percentage of how much those quizzes are worth to their grade. And then lastly, there's a class schedule with all the due dates with each chapter assignments that are due. So the next section after the syllabus that they'll notice is, I just wanted to show you before I move on, an example of my syllabus. So this is under the required text and materials section. You'll see the exact book that they need to buy, and it reminds them that they do have to have an activation code in order to use LaunchPad. If they choose a cheaper option, they could always go with this e-text version that would just be the e-text with the LaunchPad. I find this very helpful because it makes it affordable for the student. There's always the option to go e-text. Also important under here is, what happens, why they need the code, and then lastly, a lot of times people worry that if students have technical difficulties that the professor doesn't feel like they can help them, and that's why here I've mentioned the 1-800 number, that they can either call that, they can email, and they can even get online and chat with technical support, and they'll help me, so I don't need to do that piece. So once they see the information in the syllabus, they next find it in my class on Blackboard. And the great thing about LaunchPad and Blackboard is that we can integrate them. And and bring LaunchPad into my Blackboard so that LaunchPad can grade for me, it can send the grades over for me, and then the benefit to the student, besides the grading, is that I can put it in, integrate it in to where the student can click on LaunchPad, they can click on a LaunchPad link, and it'll take them straight into LaunchPad. They can enter their code there. Once they do that the first time, it is a single sign-on every single time. They can just go in through my Blackboard class, and students really appreciate that. They don't have to worry about all these logins and passwords that they can't remember. Now let's talk a little bit about LaunchPad specifically once we're in there and the different assignments that I find helpful for my class inside LaunchPad. So I use, first of all, there's some self-assessments. If you're not familiar with a PRCA, it's just a personal self-assessment score of a student's apprehension or their anxiety towards communication and public speaking. So I have a student take this at the beginning of the semester and at the end so I can see where they're at and how I can help them. Obviously, we use the e-text, and so they'll need access to that on a regular basis. There are chapter quizzes, and there are also chapter learning curves, and I'll talk about learning curves shortly. They are very similar to quizzes, and so I choose to use the chapter learning curves in replace of quizzes, and that would be their quiz grades. These are really great assignments, and it's my favorite part of LaunchPad, so I'll cover that in a moment. There's also a lot about, at least in the communication area, there's a lot of self-assessments called What About Yous. I call them, they're similar to a Cosmo magazine type self-assessment test, and the students can take these. I can assign them, or generally I use them as extra credit that it helps students actually apply the content to their life. There's also different tips and techniques to reduce students' anxiety. I find that very helpful. There's different ways you can use videos. You can watch videos such as sample speeches. They have these great 2-minute video clips so my students can go in and watch just a piece of a speech instead of a whole entire speech, so I can direct them, okay, now go watch an attention getter, and they can do that. It does give the opportunity for instructors to have students upload speeches as well, but I have not used that. So now let me take you on a little tour of my personal LaunchPad and what it looks like when my student logs in to LaunchPad. So this is the home screen that they will come to, and the thing that students tell me is they really like it because it looks similar to their social media. So it's laid out the same, it's easy for them to find their way around. They've got the e-text located here for them, their grade book, a calendar with all the due dates, and then all of the assignments that I have assigned will show here with their due dates as well. So a student can click on a chapter and see exactly what I've assigned them to do within that chapter. Moving forward, I'd like to now talk about Learning Curve within LaunchPad. This is my personal favorite LaunchPad feature. So I have chosen to use the Learning Curves in place of the quizzes, and it'll explain why here, because what students do is they get a target score. So in this case, they need to reach a score of 750. And once they do that, they receive a full credit completion grade of 100%. But it's not that easy. They actually have to reach that by answering questions correctly. And if they get them wrong, they will be re-asked. And the quicker they answer things correctly, the sooner they'll be able to complete the activity. Students have told me if they have read the chapter and do well, then they can complete a learning curve in 10 minutes, 20 minutes maximum if they're having to go through and look up some content. The next screen shows an example of a question. So if a student answered this question, and here it shows that they got it wrong, it'll tell them to try again. And the important part here for me, this is why I like the learning curves, it doesn't just tell the student that they're wrong, it tells them why that answer is wrong. At this point, they can go on and try again. They could click the refer to their book so they could actually go back and look up the content and the answer. They could ask for a hint, which they would get less points for if they get it right. Or they can click show me to see the answer, and then it would just give them a totally different question. So it really drills in, makes them delve into the material, learn the information, and know that they've learned it before they move forward. So now that we've talked about the different features that I like in LaunchPad, I'd like to talk about the most important part, and that is, to me, the benefit to the students. So basically, I've not only observed my students, I've talked with them, but I've given them surveys on what they think about LaunchPad. And every semester, at the end of the semester, I will give a survey, and they can do it anonymously if they wish, to let me know what they like, what they don't like, and what they would do differently. And honestly, nobody dislikes it except for the lazy students that don't want to complete the work. So most students really like and appreciate it, and they find it very, very beneficial. And here are the benefits that they have told me that they find. Number one, they feel like they learn and retain the material better. They said they actually read it, and then they actually remember it, because by doing the LaunchPad assignments, it's forcing them into the material. Students claim that it's very user-friendly, so they like that it's easy to use, it's fast for them. They appreciate the one-site login since it's integrated into my Blackboard, so they don't have to worry about losing passwords. Students appreciate having the text online. A lot of them will say that they'll look it up on a break at work, on their phone or tablet, something along that line. And sometimes I'll refer to the students to look into their textbook in class, and they can look that up very quickly on their laptops, tablets, and phones. Students have told me that they really, really appreciate having the online quizzes from home. They said, you know, it's not totally easy because of the learning curve. They have to find the content and get it correct. But they said it takes away the stress element, the nervous element, especially those that don't test well and have test anxiety. But it just takes away some stress. They can relax, and they can actually learn the information. And with the learning curves, I feel like they are learning it, because it's definitely driving home the information. Students really like to be able to take the LaunchPad learning curve, see their grade, and then watch it appear in their Blackboard gradebook from that integration piece. They love that immediate feedback. I've had many tell me that they appreciate that I'm actually using the materials that I'm requiring them to purchase. Students complain that many professors require materials and then never use them. So at least for using it, it saves the student a lot of time, especially taking those quizzes at home and having the book right there. And they also appreciate being able to return to assignments. They can work on one, save it, come back to it later. They can keep track of everything there so they don't have to do it by hand and have files. So they can always go back to assignments, grades, their textbook, and other materials. And just another piece that I would like to mention is the technology use. I know a lot of students are coming to us, especially out of high school, and they're used to using technology. For instance, the school district that my son is in is using all technology and no textbooks. My son is given, like all students in the district, a tablet. He's in 8th grade, and everything they do and submit and all of their textbooks are on this tablet. So they come to us used to using technology, but if we're not using it, they almost don't know how to learn, because that's how they've been taught. In addition, probably most of you have noticed, as I have, that students have trouble putting their technology down. They just are so addicted. And so this allows them to actually incorporate it. So in my opinion, I've finally come to the fact that if they're not going to be able to put it down, at least we can incorporate it and use it. So now that I've talked about the benefits to my students, I'd like to focus on the benefits to myself as the instructor. And I know that if you ask any professor or teacher what they dislike about their job, most of them are going to tell you the grading aspect. That is a really tough part, because it's so time-consuming and takes away so much time from our personal life. And so for me, besides the benefit to the student, my number one reason for using LaunchPad is the efficiency piece, because it saved me a lot of time where I'm not having to grade and input grades, and gives me that time back with my family. So here are my top benefits to using LaunchPad for myself. Like I said, the number one piece is the efficiency piece, which saves time grading and also entering grades into the gradebook since I've integrated it. It is fast and easy to use and set up, and so I also appreciate that once I set it up one semester, I can copy it into another semester. So it has just saved me a lot of time in that aspect as well. Having the online quizzes or the learning curves saves class time for teaching. So now that I'm able to have my students do these quizzes at home, I can do activities in class where we do hands-on activities because I really want to drive home how we can relate it and use this information in their life. And so it has saved me so much information. I've been able to tie in so many more activities that are helpful to my students in learning their content. The quizzes and learning curves are already created for you. I don't have to create them. I can just go assign them, or I could take some quizzes and I could edit them. I can also upload things on my own, and so this makes it really great, but I really appreciate having them created for me. I'd also like to point out that not everybody likes the learning curves like I do. Some people prefer the quizzes, and that's fine. I have another professor that I know who chooses to use the learning curves as a pre-test and then goes back and uses the quizzes as a post-test, and that works well for her. I like that it gives students affordable options. You know, so many times students come to the end of the semester, oh, I can't afford the book, da-da-da-da. Of course, they're coming to class in Starbucks every day and drive a better car than myself. But this gives me the opportunity to say, well, you might not be able to afford the textbook, but you should be able to afford the e-text only that has the LaunchPad. And so it's great for them to be able to see that there is an affordable option for them. This also, by using LaunchPad, forces my students to actually use their textbook. And in doing that, they have to delve into the material and actually learn the content. So they have better understanding, they apply it, and they're telling me that they retain it more. And I'm finding them retaining it when they actually will speak about it during class and participate. So the success is really seen from their use. I also feel like it adds a benefit to serve many learning styles. So some students need to hear it, some need to see it, some need to write it, some need all of it. A lot of students love video gaming, and that learning curve is similar to a video game, and so that appeals to their learning style as well. So really, I feel like once I put LaunchPad into my course, I've got every way possible that a student could learn, and so this is very helpful. It also gives students an opportunity to use technology in their learning, as I mentioned. So we're plugging that in. If that's the way they're learning, and then they find that helpful, then that's great. Whatever helps my students learn. So just to recap, today I talked about the products that I use. I talked about how I use LaunchPad specifically, and I focus a lot on the learning curves. I talked about the benefits to the students and their success. And I talked about the benefits to myself as the instructor. So I just want to touch quickly on why you should consider using or increasing your usage if you're using it. Number one, it's not hard. It is very, very simple and user-friendly. And if you don't know how to use it, Macmillan provides a lot of people to help you and lead you through it. It's fast and easy to begin and set up, and then as I mentioned, you can just copy and paste it when you start a new semester. And if you haven't ever tried it, I would just suggest, this is how I started, try one assignment and assign that and see how it goes. See how much time it takes you, and then it doesn't take much time at all to set up, and then follow up by asking your students what they think. And if they're liking it, then slowly you can add on to it, and then, you know, you can probably appreciate it so much that you'd be in the place that I am where I use all of the chapter learning curves. You'll find it makes your life easier and more efficient. Many benefits for the students, which we talked about: better learning, lower prices, the ability to use technology, and that they're actually using their textbook. And lastly, it's just the way of our future classroom. Our classrooms are going technology-wise, and so it allows us to just incorporate that. So I hope that I've helped you on wanting to try LaunchPad if you haven't tried it yet. And at this time, I'm just going to send it back to Alex and open up for questions.
Thank you so much. Outstanding. Yeah, with that, I will unmute all participants. See if I can. Okay. Yeah, we've got a small group, so everybody is now unmuted. Welcome. Any questions you might have had about LaunchPad or anything touched on during the presentation? Okay.
Those are easy questions.
Okay. If there's no questions from the floor, yes, Deanna, thank you so much for your presentation. That was wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And you'll hear from us in the next few days with a recording.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.